So 81 was really the first year we had a video game console war between Atari and Intellivision.
Boy, they were going after each other. They were just, cutthroat after each other. Ads, attack ads. It was like a political campaign.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. It's the Atari and Intellivision war.
You're brown and black, I'm brown and gold. Go f yourself.
Now 80 was a breakout year for Atari due to Space Invaders selling a bazillion copies, and Intellivision was trying to get their foot in the door still.
Ah!
So what was a good way to do it? Why not compare on TV your technologically superior system to the system that was already 3-4 years old?
And they start warring it out on television with incredibly entertaining advertisements.
With George Plimpton.
I'll try almost anything. So when Mattel Electronics asked me to compare their Intellivision games with Atari, I gave it a try.
Sure, it was no Sega does what Nintendo don't, but it had George Plimpton in that I didn't know kid.
Excuse me, have you compared them to Intellivision?
Intellivision?
Sure, they've got great space games, like Intellivision Space Battle.
I didn't know.
Who better to compare video game systems than George Plimpton, a middle-aged writer and poet?
He seemed trustworthy.
And he just kind of came across as like, the Intellivision system is so much better than the Atari, And graphically, it was.
So he had written books about what it was like to really train and be with this game. So he was the big sports expert of the common person playing sports.
He wanted to pose a question to the audience, basically.
He would come out and say, "Hi, I'm George Plimpton, and look here's Atari baseball. And here's a television baseball," and people are running around bases.
The ball moving, and the characters were actually that famous Intellivision motion, like all the characters were moving, the smooth animation. It actually looked like a baseball game. Yeah.
And so the dad at home, he looks at the Atari and goes, "I don't see a baseball diamond." But he looks at ours and says, "Hey, it's a baseball diamond."
I'd always heard a lot of stories about people like, I was able to convince my parents to get us a video game system because I was able to convince them to get an Intellivision because my dad wanted to play the baseball game.
The sports games for Intellivision were obviously better than the sports games at the time for the VCS.
You didn't have one, you'd be like, you know what, that Atari baseball game with only 4 guys in the field, yeah, I think I do want the one that actually has all 9.
The very first time that voice was ever used in a video game was MLB Baseball for the Intellivision, the great, "You're out."
That's what launched Intellivision with the sports games. That was it. And so Atari tried to come back and say, yeah, they got great sports games, but they don't have space games. So, Intellivision, like every time they came out with a commercial, Intellivision was right there with and now here's Space Armada and here's Astro Smash.
Intellivision Space Games from Mattel Electronics. Once you compare, you'll know.
Comparing directly Star Strike to the Asteroids, which is the big seller on the 2600, basically saying, here's Star Strike with, basically some sort of 3D-ish graphics, and Asteroids looks like trash. That was basically what George Plimpton was saying in a very nice way, in his nice gray suits.
And the worst is when he was done. Oh my God. He goes, see? That wasn't so hard.
I think my favorite's got to be the really awkward one with a little kid that wheels up next to George Plimpton getting out of his car. He's on his little bicycle and he's just so in awe. He's like, "Mr. Intellivision?"
Well, your friends aren't going to have this newest one. It's Frog Bog.
Oh man, they're not gonna believe this. Can I get your autograph?
Certainly. What's your name?
My name?
And I talked to George Plimpton years ago before he died, and he said, they actually came in and they gave him an Atari, they gave him an Intellivision, and he had to fill out affidavits for the FTC, that he did find Intellivision better. He said, of course they were paying me, so I had an incentive to find it better, but I really did find it better.
The graphics actually looked a lot better. Now, by today's standards, they still look like blocky crap. But back then, you were like, hell yeah, that looks like an actual player. That looks like an actual man running with the soccer ball. That looks like an actual guy batting the ball.
Even today, some people are still, it's very strange, some people today are still, oh, Intellivision versus Atari, oh, Atari was better, oh, this was better. And they're still fighting about this.
Atari did win the console war eventually though, but that's because they had just some really blockbuster hits with Pac-Man, Space Invaders and things like that, but Intellivision did give him quite a run for its money.
It's kind of ironic that the Intellivision commercials featured E.T.'s Henry Thomas, and the infamous E.T. game was released on the Atari 2600, not the Intellivision, and that the E.T. game led to the demise of the Atari 2600. It's out of this world.